Hey writers, welcome to episode number 4 of the Working Writer Podcast on collaboration and writing as a team. So last time in my interview with Sarah Selly, we talked about Stephen King's On Writing, and I read from it for the inspiration moment. It's the giveaway for this episode, so stay tuned to the end and I'll announce who wins. Just for new listeners, the way you win the giveaways each episode is to engage with the podcast in some way, shape, or form, usually social media, anywhere you listen to podcasts, leave a review, like a post, comment on a post. Those are the lists I pick from. So I am really excited about today's episode. The theme is collaboration, the different ways to write with other people and to create books and to make things with other people. There's a lot of different formats that can take in the writing world between partners, anthologies, collaborations. This is the Little Quotes team. We just put out a book called Little Quotes by Little Folks. Technically, kids wrote it. We edited it. Our illustrator drew amazing pictures. And we just released it last year. So it's been a very educational process. We learned a lot while we did that. And it's turned out to be a really viable way to build our portfolios with more projects and to not carry that load all by ourselves. So I'm really excited to explore that. We had a great conversation recorded just before the book went live. And we're going to get into all kinds of the nitty gritty of what that looked like, what we learned along the way, what we hope to take going forward. We met on a collaborative website called Hit Record. I don't know if you have looked that up before. It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's original site. It's kind of a giant artistic sandbox on how to make things with other people. The main attraction for a lot of people is that credit is given to every contributor and you can earn money through it. So you're playing and you're, experimenting with different things online, but if your work gets picked up and remixed is what they call it, into a final product and that product makes money, then everybody who contributed earns something. So, as artists trying to be diverse in the way we approach our projects and to look for ways to be working writers and working artists, it's very attractive to think that you can collaborate on something large scale. Hit Record has produced Emmy-winning television shows, and it's got many commercials behind its back, web series. There's all kinds of outputs that Hit Record has made. Books, merch, big partnership with the Parks and Rec department. Parks and Rec. That makes me think of the TV show. It wasn't that. It wasn't Parks and Rec. It was the actual national parks for the country. But there's just so many different things, and they're all collaborative. They're all people pitching in for all these different art formats and making this beautiful finished product that isn't even always known from the start. It's very organic how it all unfolds. So the Little Quotes team and I all met on Hit Record, working on various projects together. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Personally, what I love about my experience with Hit Record is that it really helped me step outside of my box and try different things. I've done a little bit of everything there. A lot of writing, visual art, acting, comedy, sketch writing. We did a proof of concept podcast, which was fantastic to do as a team. I've had my records included in books. Commercials. It's been fun. I have seen money. I have an Emmy certificate. Maybe I'll put that on the blog post for this episode. There's been some really fun creative outputs from Hit Record, and one of the best by far is the people that I have met and have long-term relationships with. We've branched off of our work from the site into these independent products. That is what Little Quotes is. It's an independent project with other Hit Record alums that we met and had chemistry and had an idea and went and made things. So I highly recommend a site like Hit Record, especially if you're needing to play and experiment, low stakes, but you don't know where it's going to go, and you want to try something that's going to help you make something that's bigger than yourself. Hit Record is perfect for that. And they do quality work. It's really honor and privilege. Every project I've been part of has been an honor and a privilege. Another way to be part of a writing team is to be part of a group, a writing group, and that's for your own projects. That's not necessarily for something that a team is collaborating on or an anthology that you're putting together, but actually the process of writing can be collaborative as you work on your individual projects. Writing guilds and writing groups are both great ways to make writing less solitary and lonely. There's some things that you should keep in mind when you pick a group. It can give you a couple case examples. Chemistry is really important. If one of the writers on the team is conservative and wants more G-rated content, and another writer on the team is erotic and writes R-rated content, they are not going to like proofing one another's work or being beta readers for one another's projects. So the guild can run into some real conflict there as you just, the output of your work just kind of collides. And there's friction involved. So chemistry is important, the kind of projects that you are working on. I think it could be very valuable to have a writing partner or a feedback partner who is in your same genre. They would understand what expectations and norms you need to hit in your work. Another thing to look out for in a group is being really honest about what you can do and what you can't do, having really clear communication. I can share a little story of where I really screwed up on this one. I was in a group. It was a feedback group. And I was very prolific. I write really quickly, and I was creating a lot of content that I needed feedback on. But I also had very little reading time. So when my co-writers were turning their work, I wasn't always available to read it, and yet they had read a ton of mine. So it became very, very unbalanced and unequal and not fair to them. And it was a good learning lesson to me to make sure that I don't say I'm available for something that I don't really have time for, but also just to be really clear about what expectations are. I have heard of writing groups where there's structure in place to help avoid any kind of imbalance like that, where you have one draft or one set of word count. There's some boundaries there with word count that you can submit, and then there's a window that you're going to get your feedback in, because it also stinks to give something to somebody else and ask for their feedback, and then crickets, you never hear from them. And I did that to other writers. So bad etiquette. So much of being a writer in a group is manners and etiquette and being a good citizen to your fellow writers. Definitely important on social media when you are interacting with other writers. Promote their work before you ask them to promote yours. It's just a really simple kind of rule of thumb to follow. There are a lot of ways to write in a group, on a team, as a partner, as a buddy, creating collaborative works where everybody has a piece, an anthology, collections, a shared workload. I'm going to go into those all more deeply in the ebook that pairs with this episode. There will be too much than I can cover in a podcast episode and still have time for the interview. So that'll be available on Amazon. There's a series of those books up now. I hope that you enjoy them. They're quick reads. They're expanded content for each episode, and they are meant to help you with the mind shift to becoming a working writer. Each one focuses on a different aspect that we are addressing in the podcast. So here's my conversation with Team Little Quotes. We skipped introductions when we were talking. So we are Jake Olson, illustrator, Rebecca Carter, manager, Sarah Webster Plitt handles social media, and I did the website. There are lots of moving parts in putting together a book, and we shared the load. The kids wrote it, and we edited it. I don't think I'll edit that out. What's really funny is where we're going to jump in on this conversation. You're going to see right away, show not tell, how Rebecca kept us all on track, because I lose my word and she gets us back. So what was I saying?
Shoestring.
Yeah, the shoestring budget, and having being able to not have to pitch in money for the project kept us from like going in the negative and being in the hole for a project that we weren't sure how it was going to end. And how good you were about making sure that we found creative solutions to our overhead.
because it wasn't just Kickstarter. We had to be really careful, and we had to think about things like how else. It's easy to throw money at something, but that doesn't really help you in the long run with a project like this. We don't know how it's going to sell, so
yeah.
Right. I guess that's how I've always done it. I've always kind of done it's so cheap now to be online, to have a presence. There's so much that you can do for free. There's certain tools I use every single time I start a new project, and you can use them for free. I use, you set up your social media. I always have some sort of form to collect information. I use Jotform. You have your email newsletter with MailChimp. We just started our website, and it's like,
and I did it again on the website. I was like, let's get the paid version of the plugin, and you're like, no, let's keep looking.
No.
It's so good. I was like, just
that's
whatever's
no, yeah.
No.
That's how I've always done it. That's probably my forte more than making money, though. So I can run things on almost no money, but I'm challenged in the sales department. But yeah, we've been able to, with what we brought in on Kickstarter, that was essentially our only income to date. We're able to launch the whole thing, and now, we're not doing distribution, ourselves. We are not going to be selling this book ourselves. We had it for the Kickstarter. We fulfilled that. And from here on out, it will go through the typical book distribution process, like through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, through whoever wants to, any bookseller that wants to sell the book. And then it's taken care of through our, through Ingram Spark, and will be shipped out, and then we'll get our cut. And so trying to keep things simple for now. And it'd be awesome to get this, printed. This is a print on demand book right now. It'd be awesome to get to the point where we have a print run, and we can, but yeah, I think it's a fun way to start. And the quality is, I'm that, like, the cover, like you guys were saying, it's like, holy smokes, like
it was surreal.
Exciting.
We're not sponsoring anything, but we can say who we use, right? This is Ingram.
That's Ingram Sparks. Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone who sees it, I don't know what they expected we were going to put together, but like everyone who sees it is like, wow, this looks really professional. I'm like, I know.
I didn't know what we were going to put together.
I gotta say, though, a lot of that goes to Jake, though. This is a pro cover. This is a proper, and you've got the skills, Jake, because I am on on a Facebook group for Ingram Spark, and people are lost. They're like constantly, right. I'm getting this error, I'm getting that error, I don't know how to do this, I hired somebody to do my cover, it's not uploading. And it went so smooth for us. Jake knows how to format everything per their, the guidelines, and so that was a really smooth process for us. Like we said earlier, everyone's got kind of their forte here. And so that was great to have an expert in the design part,
well,
to be able to make that smooth.
I can even speak on what Sarah mentioned about the book and what people expected, because honestly, I've just worked so much. I do all my drawings by hand, and then in this project, I did it way and them in, so nothing was really drawn digitally. But I worked digitally, and I do that often, and so I don't have tangible product in my hands. And sometimes I do t-shirts, and you get used to like how t-shirts look when they're printed. But when this book arrived, and like when I had it in my hands, I awkwardly like said out loud, like, it's a book, it's a real book. like
It is.
it's just it's so surreal to be able to hold your work that was digital, but also just to have it collected. Like a book is really like, this is like, when you guys keep saying art piece, that means so much, because it's like it is a collection of art pieces in this, like you're saying, the quality is really incredible. The hardcover book feels like, I'm saying it again, like it feels like a real book, like it is a real book.
It's a book. It's real. We did
it's
it.
just, it's surreal to me, and I still haven't gotten over that feeling. It is a wonderful book.
So much love. Let's see. Should we talk about? We've talked about roles. What else was on that list? I know Endgame was on the list. What is our Endgame? We have done a little talking about it.
Do we have an end game yet? I mean, I think our goal at this point is expansion of our brand, trying to build our following on social media so we can potentially sell merchandise, or maybe, I don't know about making another book. I mean, I think that's something we would have to discuss.
I'm excited about merch, though. I think we have
Yeah,
so many ways we can go.
I would love, I would love to make packaging and sell Nut Snack. I swear to you.
Oh my
God.
God.
If we packaged that, I think people would buy it. It would be like the best gag gift, or you know what I mean?
Yes, and listeners, if you want to know what a nut snack is, you're gonna have to buy the book.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That's incredible, though. Like, I never even considered like something like that. Like, that's such an excellent product from this idea. Like, such a byproduct that, like, we've just become really good at remixing things. We really have
Oh
become
yeah.
good at like finding a material and like, what else can we do with this? Just like these quotes, like what else can we do with these quotes? Like, we can put them together in a book. It's like, well, now that we have a book, what can we do with the book?
That's a good point, and we should probably maybe explore that a little, because that's a hit record reference, remixing.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. Hit record was this big website that had all these records, artistic records on it, and we would take it and make new stuff, like a giant sandbox. And I miss it. I haven't been on the site in a very long time, but
And records in reference to just any kind of digital, that could be writing, visual, audio. But yeah, that's how they were kind of represented on the site.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would get like an email now that says so and so remixed your record, and it'll be like this snippet. Oh, I was in this book. Where'd it go? The Art of Breaking Up. And then on the other side, it's like, well, so they didn't tell. Usually, what they do is in the credits they tell you which record went into the thing. They didn't do that this time. They just sent me a notification that I was in it. So I had to buy the book, and I wanted to anyway, to see where my thing was. And so I'm looking. And the first half is what it's like to break up with someone. And the second half is what it's like to be broken up with a broken heart. And it's a really great example of remixing, because like, that's a typical remix. That's got a little bit of all kinds of stuff in it from several.
Yeah, like a few different people.
Yeah.
I had to really search for my little tiny snip, and I will say they did a great job with credits, because I am somewhere in here, but I don't know where. It wasn't for the record I thought it was, so yeah. But it's better to be included than excluded, I guess, if you're dealing with credits on a collaboration.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, it also kind of goes to show that, like, in that instance, you didn't have direct link to it, but like, even something could be small, and it really could be maybe not foundational piece, but an important piece to the whole mix. Like, it might not be the starting block, but your piece was necessary for going into a final product. And I think
or it inspired the work that they chose to use.
Right.
That could be, yeah. Because some of those records are concepts and ideas, and someone else remixes it to the point where you can't recognize it, but they started there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that just kind of goes back to, like, there's a lot of value in ideas. Like, people just want a completed thing, and that's well and good. We all want completed things, but there is a lot of value in ideas, and just like there's a lot of value in someone that can help you take those ideas further. But yeah, just the concept of having a good idea, I think gets lost on people, but it's just having the right person to also share that with, maybe.
And
I
play.
think that, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and play. It's like ideas and play are undervalued, but they're essential to
Yeah.
this process for sure. Go ahead.
I think that we don't consider how much remixing happens in real life or in any kind of artistic process. It happens so much with writing that I've noticed in particular. Like I'll go to comment on, somebody's meme or somebody's tweet, and I'll realize that my comment on theirs is a standalone tweet. And so I'll put it in my drafts and I'll save it, and then we get inspiration from so many different sources. And so that's what was so cool about that site, is that one little seed of an idea could turn into this big, huge thing. And I don't know.
It turned into a TV show that's won an Emmy. Like,
Yeah.
It turned into our book.
It turned exactly.
yeah.
We did.
Yeah, we took what we learned from there and we brought it outside the system and created our own thing. And now I think we're learning how to collaborate with people, with kind of the general public.
It's perpetuating.
Yeah. And
it is neat to not just swirl. Like I don't want to say this in a way that devalues the support end of working on a team, because it is just fun to have a tribe and other people who get excited about what you get excited about. Like that's its own beautiful thing. And then it's been really great to see that become something, and that takes us from point A to point B. Even if we hadn't completely finished, we've learned so much from it. And like when I came up with this podcast idea, it's been weird because I was like, I don't know if this will work. And I had the idea a year ago, and then I got busy with the other job, and then I picked it back up again this fall, and I had 20 episode ideas that involved 20 interviews, and I got all those yeses. And a couple of them are groups like this where that's even more than 20 people because they're teams. And when you hear 20 yeses for something and you realize all that time of tribe building and friendship and support, and like it all came to this thing, this beautiful moment of the universe catching you. And that's how it happens, like through people. Like universal work is always through people. So it's like, and we don't even know we've never sat in a room together and we did this thing, and we're going to do other things. Like we're just going to do other things. I know it's going to lead. Like Endgame is a good question because we don't know yet if it's really going to be a brand, and we have ideas for stuff, but bigger than the book and bigger than the product is we have these relationships that are probably eternal. I mean, they just are.
I mean, you make a product like this, and it's not something you'll ever forget. You'll never forget the process. You'll never forget how it came to be and about the relationships that you built while you were doing it and how it changed your life from start to finish. I mean, think about it. We started it a year ago. So much happens in a year. And this year particularly.
And this year. Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that whatever we do next, even if like we take on a whole different project and run with it in a completely different way, like we'll always have this as our base and as our, like how we got started. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think I'm articulating myself.
Yeah, there's something that I wanted to go off of with that it reminded me of with, getting from point A to point B and just the process of things. It's so funny to me because there's this idea of when you're in a storm, when you're in a problem, you can't see outside of the storm. Essentially you're in the eye of the storm, and it might feel calm, or it might feel, that this is the way things are, but you can't see past that. And I'm not using the book as the reference to the storm, but creating all of this, being in the process, it was just being very present in the book. And coming out of that, I had this major realization that was like, wow, I've always wanted to do a kid's book. And through the course of life, just kind of came to the realization that where am I going to find a narrator, an author? Where am I going to find someone to write a kid's book? And so I kind of like lost attachment to that dream, that idea. And after doing this whole book, I realized like, wow, I did that. Like, that's what that is. I did a book for kids, and it was collaborative, and I didn't have to stress about the story, and I could just work and focus on the illustrations. And so I use the reference of like being in the storm, because like I couldn't have seen that in the process because of just where I was in life. And then coming out of it and accomplishing that with all of you was really, again, it was so surreal to hold that book and be like, wow, I just checked off a box in something that I've always wanted to do my entire life, and kind of forgot about it just through the course of events in life. And so, yeah, it's really interesting how things work, and going back to networking and the friendships and the relationships that you make. You never really know where they're going to lead, but like when they're genuine and they're caring and they're just understanding and collaborative, it really takes you to these places that you don't expect. So
I love that, because we get places with people. We don't do anything by ourselves ever.
Exactly.
Like the
We're
big
always in
lie of
relation.
society.
Mhm.
It does matter who you know, and then you are like, even self-made people aren't self-made. There's a whole village of people that got them where they are.
Yeah.
We're just being obvious about it. It's just,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, I can edit out our poignant silences too.
I don't think there were too many.
I was glad that Jake brought that up, because I was gonna bring that up and then I forgot about it. But yeah, that's something. And we call ourselves editors on the book too, right? Jake is the illustrator and we're the editors, because the kids wrote this book, the parents wrote this book, and so yeah, it's just a really interesting way to arrive at an end product, to the collaboration that you just don't see that often. I was really trying to research quite a bit books like this, other collaborative books, and I couldn't find a lot of good examples. Maybe it would be, if you see a collaborative work, but it's 8 authors, each with maybe a short story, in a book. It's like, well, that's not quite what we're doing. We're trying to create something with other people, and then I really like what we landed on at the end. We said, well, the people from Kickstarter, they have quotes in the book, and some of our followers from social media, they have some quotes in the book. But what about people that just buy the book after the fact, and that we added in this section of prompts to ask your kids, some questions that might get silly answers, and a place to kind of store their quotes, in the back. So trying to make this to keep it going, and have it be a keepsake, and have a way for them to still kind of share quotes with us, so that as we do grow the brand and maybe build more things. And I do hope we do another book,
I would love that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Jake?
I mean, I'm interested.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
We know how to do it now. We know we can. It's like that scene
Right.
in Harry Potter where he like makes the Patronus, and he's like, I knew I could do it because I already did it. I don't know if you guys know the reference.
Oh yeah.
Great. And we have a
It's from the
website
third
where
book.
they can still submit their quotes, so we're still going to have material coming in.
Yeah.
Right. And
we have a
do
ton.
publish, we do publish on social media, and we do hope to add products, merchandise and stuff. But, my goal would be to really grow that audience, so that we could do another book, but it would be like really,
it would be
like,
much bigger this time.
Yeah. And to have just
We'd have a lot of curating to do.
So,
and we could
but
not
to have
guarantee
so
everyone
much,
got in.
yeah, it would
Just
be
laying it out.
Boundaries.
For all of you interested, slow down. Like,
slow your roll.
We got a list.
Well, I just said your quote sucks, but then I was thinking we didn't really get any sucky quotes. We had some that were hard to illustrate or wouldn't have worked for the format, but nobody's quote sucked.
Well, we had some that were like great quotes, but not necessarily on brand too, So
the hardest, not the hardest, but like one of the challenges that did go behind the illustrating was how do I convey this to someone quickly? And because in the visual sense, because a lot of these, they're very almost like a comic. They're like a not a simple illustration in the sense of like there's not much going on, but it's simplified like cartooning, so you don't have to sit there and think for a long time. And so like there were challenges with like maybe like a dialogue between a parent and a child, and how do we really show that. But that was part of the fun with the book, was working through those challenges, and how do we make each quote something that's funny or clever, but just you just get it right away. And like you were saying, there, we didn't have too many that were really hard to work with, but there were some of those challenges with we've got a consistent format to this book, and we're gonna make these quotes work. It's like we're gonna make it work somehow. So
Was looking for, there were some things like, I'm looking for it. Here it is. I don't know because I've got my virtual background on, the eyebob. So this is something that my son would say, he would be talking about his eyeball. I got something in my eyebob or something like that.
yeah.
And I just submitted it as like, that's funny, to me, especially as mom. But I didn't know what Jake would come back with. And it's an eyeball that's a guy named Bob, and it's just so funny to me.
He had a whole background to me too. Like he's a salesman. I feel like he's a door to door. That's Bob to me. My dad's name is Bob. I've got this whole inner.
Dad's name is Bob. There's a lot of dads named Bob. Yeah, he got his hat, he's got his belt. Oh my gosh. So it's
a very
really
old school looking person too. Like it's not a modern looking.
He sells vacuums.
Yeah, exactly.
Or encyclopedias.
Exactly. Yep.
So that was fun also, like, just to be able to give Jake, we just basically had our spreadsheet. Here's your quotes, and we would say, oh, this one maybe could be this or that, just like little anything that came to our mind, but just ran with it. And it was always so fun to get the next batch of illustrations in and be like, oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Do you guys
it was a really enjoyable process, when you have something so lighthearted. It's just,
when you need a laugh,
we're just giggling all the time. Yeah.
So like, no matter how many times we've proofed it carefully and gone over and over and over, and I've like, we know this book from the seed up, I still go through the pages and crack up. Like it's the first time I've seen it. I'm like, I know it's so old. It's like, no, it doesn't get old. But I think that's like the essence of the whole idea, isn't it too? Because parents hold on to the funny things their kids say and, hold it in their heart. And now they can hold it in their hand because it's so cute.
Yeah, we're hoping it's the kind of thing you can keep on. My mom said, oh, now I have a coffee table book, and but it's the kind of book, that you just kind of keep out, and when you want to flip through, and they do still kind of get you. And it's funny because we all have our own favorites and they're different. So different quotes, hit different people, and that's always fun too. A little something for everyone.
Do your kids, Rebecca, like it as much as mine do? Because mine love it. And I'm really protective of it because I know, like just touching my computer right now, it has sticky stuff all over it.
Right.
Because like they are a mess. So I'm like, don't get it messed up. But they love looking through it. It's like, and so that makes me happy that like it's so enjoyable for them too. Because I'm not going to lie, like my brand for my social media is a lot racier and like has like,
it is. Sometimes
like
it's mean. I'm like, shit, parents, what are you?
But like, it's just jokes. Like, obviously I'm a very loving mother, I promise. But Rebecca was very, very, very like, she wanted it to be something you could enjoy with your kids. And I'm so happy that's the way we went. Because it did take like a lot of my time over this last year where like they would be like, I come do this with me, Mom. I'm like, no, I have to take care of this for the quotes book. And And so now I have this book that I can show them and be like, this is what mommy was spending her
Mm.
time doing.
Yeah.
And they
Right.
love it so much. And then flipping through it, you know, so it's great. Like, I'm really happy that that's the direction we took it.
That's cool. Mine haven't
Family
seen it
friendly.
yet. They're adult kids because my kids are older. My youngest is 16, and none of them have seen it yet. They're gonna get it for
Ooh.
Christmas.
Nice.
So we'll see on Christmas Eve. They get a book every year for Christmas Eve, and this year it's a book that has a quote of them in it. So
Oh,
I'm
nice.
excited. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, it's your book too.
I know. And
Yeah, yeah,
they're proud of me. You know, like, they're such supportive kids, and it's really cool to see, like, you know, you pour your heart and soul into raising them, and then they turn around and they're like, "Mom, what are you making? What are you doing?" And
Right.
they're so excited, and to show them, like, yeah, I'm not just like, I'm going to censor my language for a second. Let me think of something else to say than what I would normally say. I'm not just messing around in my office. I'm actually doing something that's gonna
Right.
you can hold.
Yeah. Yeah. You asked Sarah, my kids, I mean, because it's always on my computer screen because I'm editing or I'm making some sort of graphic or something. And they'll walk by and then they'll kind of back up and then they'll go, wait a minute, go back. And then they'll go, ah, that's funny. And then they'll walk. And I'm like, you guys have seen this 100 times. And they still crack up about it. They haven't gone through the book as much because it is like, I'm like, don't touch the
I know. I have
I
extra
need to
now.
like
I
I
probably
have
shouldn't
one
have
book
one.
that like is kind of like gonna be the the book you can touch. And then
Wow.
I do need to get more copies. Are we able to get like our cheaper ones because the back behind?
yeah,
the
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll show you how. Yeah,
Okay, good.
but
I didn't buy enough.
yeah, I found
No.
the same problem. I also did not buy enough. Yeah, so
Better than Girl Scout cookies.
we'll be our own best customers.
Thankfully,
I've
anyone who I
ordered
would have
one on
bought it for
Amazon.
already bought their own.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was really, I had a lot of people come back to me that were just like, it was just, I didn't expect certain people to be like, I saw that you have your book out and I already got it. Like, I didn't even have a chance to be
Ooh.
like, oh, look, I did, you know, I don't post on like Facebook much, and I posted a few things to promote it, and just the response was really nice. But then I had people directly texting me, like, I was like, I didn't even know this person still had my number. And it was just really
Right.
funny that they, you know, they went and bought the book. So
That's also good promo because
yeah,
that means
yeah.
they heard about it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, the reach is definitely showing. Yeah.
Fantastic.
we've got lots of people sending stuff out, but we haven't done like a full blitz yet with, like, you know, the social media, like influencers and things that I've made connections with. But I think once we do, it really will help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, where we're at, we've done an impressive amount on our own. So like, yeah,
agreed.
any collaboration will really just once people can, you know, we're going to have a lot of people taking pictures with their kids holding the book, and other people are going to be really interested about what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like, you know, part of it was, you know, let's make a proof of concept. Let's figure out the process. Let's figure out how to do this. Let's figure out. And so that the next thing, right? And
Yeah.
I think, and I don't think we expected to land on a brand like this, you know, and be like, oh, this is like, you know, let's keep growing this. I don't think we expected to do that. I think we started talking about end game. I think the end game originally was make the book. And now it's almost like that's step one. You know, now we've just finished step one of potentially a longer, you know.
But not
longer
only is it
life.
step one for us as a group, it's also step one for a lot of us individually. Like now, you know, I want to publish my mom poems, and I have already published a book. Jake wanted to make a, you know, a children's book. He has illustrated a children's book. Now he can take that, you know, that bit of experience that he has, and he's got something tangible to show for it, and pitch that, you know, for his own personal career. And we all have like these our individual goals that we have furthered because we have this too. So it's not just as a group that we've, you know, achieved this. We've achieved it individually. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
stronger as people. One of the things I liked about the way we left it open-ended, though, is we kind of gave ourselves an out. Like if it was going to be a miserable experience, or if it just wasn't going to work, you know, no harm, no foul. We tried and we explored it. And I think that's an important part of team stuff too. Like, don't lock yourself in, don't wreck relationships over it, you know, try the thing. It is a mountain climb. This was a lot of learning curve. It took a lot of resilience and support to get through it. And I'm not sure every team could have pulled it off. You know, there's a chemistry that we have that worked.
We had the background too with collaboration.
Yeah.
True.
I think that there's a lot of value in also each of us is being our genuine self, and you shouldn't necessarily have to say that, but like that's true, that like we're each being our genuine self, and communication was always open. There was never a time where I felt that I couldn't communicate with you, like all of you. And you know, for me personally, without any extra detail, like I struggle with, you know, mental health, and to be in the mindset of drawing and creating when you're struggling with mental health, it sucks. It's not a fun process, but I always felt heard, and I always felt cared for, and I always felt that there was patience and understanding with that for me, and it allowed me to always come back to the project and never feel like I didn't want to touch it again. You know, there were times where I needed to back away, especially in this last year. And I think that anybody listening to this can understand that. But I never felt like the project itself was something I needed to stay away from. I always wanted to come back to it because I always had a supportive team, and that is, it's important. And I think a lot of that just, it does come back to communicating and being open and just being honest with yourself and your team.
That's actually one of my favorite takeaways of the whole process. Your transparency about anxiety. I also have anxiety, and I try to, before this year, maybe before 2019, I was a hush about it, you know, because I thought it was going to bring a weakness to a team, or an inconsistency or something. But we're open about that on a team. If we're having a bad day, I mean, Sarah, you do it with your kids too. You guys all do it. If we need to step back, no shame, we can talk about that, and it's fine. And it keeps it pleasant, you know, it keeps it human. I actually think it's shining through in the fact that we did accomplish it, because we gave ourselves space to be human. And we can say the thing, you know, we just say the thing. It's really important. And I think it brings out some of the beauty. Your illustrations convey this humanity that I don't think is possible from somebody who's pretensive, you know, like there's an honesty in these little illustrations. It shines. But I think it's really important. I probably say it's really important too much. Also, Jake, I'm jealous of your headset and microphone in one thing, because you don't have this thing in front of your face.
I mean, I like your armature. I'm not gonna lie. I like what you got going on. So I think it's a mutual, where like if we had that other thing.
It's going to be great for the podcast part of it, because the sound is going to be good, but the YouTube end of it, which my son was like, Mom, you have to do YouTube and sound. You can't just you need to maximize both channels. So I'm like, well, but they have very different needs, the video output and the sound. But yours would work double duty, because you can hear yourself too, which I love.
It's almost Christmas.
Last week though, like trying to use my Rebecca wisdom on a shoestring.
Ooh, I can make it stretch.
You need to solve my webcam issue. I have no more USB port, and all the webcams are USB. I'm like, I don't want to buy a new Mac. That is not in the budget.
I'm also the queen of refunds. If you ever need tutoring on how to return something or complain for a credit.
Important skill. I just keep it, and then
I do too. I just go get another one. I'm like, I hated your product, so I'm gonna buy two.
Take that.
I always say I have returned half a watermelon because it was not right. It did not take. I'll do it.
Wow. And they can't reshelve it. Like, if they can reshelve it, I don't feel bad. But if they half a watermelon, unopened, like food from the grocery store that it was stale or something, you know, like the strawberries, if the strawberries have mold on the bottom of them.
Take them back.
Send them back.
Find the word.
That's right.
I look at the line and I'm like, nope.
I gotta go back outside.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
becoming a recluse.
I was gonna say something, and you don't, you know, if it doesn't fit, that's okay. But you know, we were talking about the communication and being able to share, and that was something. As we started saying that this was a passion project, and as I was kind of running it, it was. I tried very hard to. I mean, everyone's kind of working on their own time. So I didn't want to demand. And so what I tried to do was follow up and have everyone set their own deadlines and have everyone set their own kind of schedule, and then just follow up based on what you committed to. And so just trying to, and also I don't do passive aggressive, and I just say what I say is what I mean, and I just try and be, you know, like easy to read. And sometimes people find it hard to read because they think there might be something behind it. I'm like, no, I'm just, whatever I'm saying, that's what I mean, that's it, that's all there is. But you know, so hopefully, you know, that was something that worked. It's like, we're all just doing this, and so what am I going to do? I can't demand that anyone does anything on any, you know, it's just so trying to just work with everybody to create their own schedule and just keep following up on that. So
I did like that it took the time that it took. Like we didn't set this book release date from the start because we couldn't have. That would have been really hard to have an artificial deadline anyway, because some of that was Ingram. And
well, we had a deadline of May for the Kickstarter.
Oh, I forgot.
So we were late.
But COVID, come on.
Luckily.
Yeah.
I want to
May was a really strange time. Like, I think everyone would understand. So maybe that's a silver lining of COVID, is it bought us time, like that people were like, oh yeah, we get it.
Yeah, because I mean, I was struggling before COVID, so I'll be honest, like not meeting that deadline, I saw the transparency of like, I'm not drawing a lot right now just because of what I was going through at times. But the fact that we did get it done in a year, but even under the circumstances of COVID and stuff, like that was surreal too, because like feeling better about mental health going into that was very different for me. I mean, there were some struggles there, but I still did a lot of work under that pressure of feeling that, like just feeling not always at peace with everything going on, but having the group to come back to and having the project to come back to, like there was some peace in that. So that was really interesting.
I think it takes, like, my memoir is, I'm trying to have it traditionally published, and they're telling me, you know, like, even if I got accepted this very day, I've already worked on it for, well, the draft started 10 years ago, and this serious draft started about a year and a half ago. And if I get accepted this very day, it would still be maybe 2.5 years before it's finished. It's incredible that we did this in a year. Like, it's amazing. I mean, it's a lot smaller book and it's a lot less weighty of an issue. That's true.
Well, publishing has changed a lot in recent days. I mean, just in the last like 5 to 10 years, social media has made publishing so different. A lot of, like, you know, because I'm in the mom humor genre, a lot of the mom humor accounts publish on their own because they already have to build a social media following, and they have to, you know, gather 500,000 email addresses from their website just to get an agent. So they're like, if you're going to require this, I've already done all the work. You know what I mean? So I feel like because it's moving away from like the way it was traditionally, you can actually accomplish more in less time if you do it on your own.
Yeah. The trade-off is distribution.
Yeah, that's true.
It's my one caveat, which I want it's religious trauma in nature. It is nationally relevant, probably internationally relevant. I had a dream the other night. I have this one agent I want to query. She's in Ireland. And I had a dream the other night where I was having a conversation with her, which I don't even know if like whatever this figment of my imagination was, but and then a Japanese person came in and they go, oh, we're so interested in what is happening in America. And you need to have like, it made me think in the middle of my dream that international audience may really care about what's happening, what's influencing our election. That might actually be a viable market. As a self-publisher, because I've done a self-published book before, it did well and it was fast and it's beautiful and it's professional and it's all those things. And the distribution's really hard. So Ingram does make it possible. It'll be interesting to see how we distribute with this, because it's going to go to all the bookstores. It's in all the places where you can buy a book. I'm kind of like watching this as a test run, because that is if I don't get picked up here pretty soon, I'm just going to self-publish it to get it off my plate, because I don't want to be thinking about it for the next 3 years. I'm ready to move on.
Well, if you get enough of the following to get on board, and if it's getting sales on its own, a lot of times you can get picked up then. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you skip the middleman altogether. You don't need the agent. The publisher will pick you up because it's already done. So what harm is it? But that's you're lucky if that happens, you know. And I can think of a few, you know, mom humor accounts that actually had it that way, but very few. You know what I mean?
It's a gamble.
Yeah, it is.
I'm a bad.
Yeah, because there's something about creating work and wanting people to see it, right? Isn't it? You know, I think that's always a thing for me. It's like, I'm not really making this for other people. I'm making it because I want to make it. But at the same time, if no one sees it, it doesn't feel like the process is complete. And so
that's a real thing. They say writers write to be read. And I would assume it's similar for artists. I mean, there's a lot that you personally benefit from making it, but you want it to be received or impact or, you know, like what's that thing about if it makes a sound in the forest?
Right. If a tree falls
in the forest, doesn't make a sound.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see it.
Okay, are you ready for some inspiration? It is going to be light and conversational this time, not so heady as what we've been reading. This is Save the Cat by Blake Schneider. It is my favorite screenwriting book. It's quick read. The first time I read through it was really quick. You can, video watchers can see there are short paragraphs with lots of space between the lines. This is not a deep, heavy book. What it is an essential resource for screenwriting. I refer to this constantly. My copy is all bent up because it's so good with the beats, the timing, the pacing, the elements a screenplay has to have. I'm in the middle of my first screenplay, and I am finding this to be absolutely indispensable. There's another one for novelists. It's called Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And his daughter, Blake, sadly passed, and so his daughter has continued his work with this follow-up book, which is it's thicker. There's more to it, a lot more to it, and it just really builds on this method. I find the two of them together in tandem has been really helpful. One of my projects is a screenplay that has I'm writing the novel for it at the same time. So I write them back and forth and I alternate the scenes, and I pick these two books up all the time as I go. Why I chose it for this week, though, is because he has this really great through line in this story of somebody he works with as a partner writer. It's also his go-to resource for coaching and anytime he hits the wall, and just can't find his way through. So, building the perfect beast. This is about halfway in the book, and it's about halfway in the part of his process of showing you how to create a film. If we are very lucky, we find a guru. These are people we meet along the way that have more wisdom than we do, and to our surprise, offer to share what they know. Mike Cheta is the first guru I met in the screenwriting business, and for 20 years he has continued to amaze me with his ability to spot, understand, and fix the problems of any screen story. I first met Mike when he was head of development for Barry and Enright. Mike also worked in that capacity for Disney and was VP of development at HBO and Once Upon a Time Productions. Over the years, Mike has developed hundreds of movie and television projects, often from initial concept to final cut. He has not only been an executive for these and other companies, but he is himself a writer, something more development execs should try, whose Chill Factor starred Cuba Gooding Jr. and the Dash Rip Rock named Street Ulrich. No matter what incarnation Mike Cheta appears under, executive writer or producer, wherever he goes, his magic story touch is the stuff of legend. Of the many scalps on his belt, Mike is the guy credited with cracking the story for Patrick Swayze movie Next of Kin. Though it was a spec script purchased in the multi-million dollar range, Next of Kin had problems that needed tweaking before he could get a green light, and it was Mike who solved them. Mike even showed me the place where this event occurred. One day we were taking a timeout from a story we were trying to break, bowed by despair and self-loathing over not knowing how. While walking through Century City, Mike stopped at the hollowed piece of sidewalk. It was here, he said, Jacob Bronowski-like, during a similarly meditative walk when his brain was filled with all the wrong ways to fix Next of Kin, that he had come up with the right way. It just hit me. Cowboys and Indians. And indeed, when he presented this simple construct to the producers of Next of Kin, that is exactly what guided the rewrite. In the course of his career, Mike has had many such moments. Like some string theory physicist, he is always working on perfecting his story skills, often in ways that seem otherworldly, but almost always prove to be inspired. So when I ran into Mike recently and asked what new ideas he'd come up with, he pulled out an artist's sketchbook from his satchel and opened it with gleeful enthusiasm. The two halves of the sketch pad, in spiral binding running down the middle, offered a larger than normal field. Across both pages, he had drawn 3 straight lines, demarking 4 horizontal rows. And in the middle of these 4 equal rows were cut out squares of paper, each which was a beat of the screen story he was working on. It's portable, Mike crackled like a mad scientist. Oh, I said, the board. And we both nodded with respect. The board. So, my very favorite takeaway from this book is the board. And he goes into how to build one, how it's going to impact your story, how it empowers your writing. But he keeps coming back to Mike over and over in the story. I say story, it's a nonfiction book, but it's creative nonfiction. It has a narrative. And he and Mike touch base every time they hit a wall. And I just, as a geek, as a writing geek thing, my takeaway from that is really don't go this alone. We don't get anywhere alone. If you're stuck, ask a fellow writer. If you're just not sure if what you're doing is any good, ask a fellow writer. Readers are great. People who don't write are great, yes, but you really do need somebody that understands what you're going through from the inside out. That is just something you can't put a price tag on. You can hire coaches for sure. I've had some awesome coaches. You can hire editors that can look at your manuscript and tell you what's wrong. But before all that, have some comrades, get you some tribe, get you some people who are doing what you're doing and they're doing the thing. And they're willing to get in the trenches with you and help you figure something out. But even better, maybe they'll make it with you. Maybe they will partner with you on that screenplay, or they will help you build something that you can both put your names on. Really cool. I've been looking at novels that have multiple authors. That sounds like it has some pros and cons. But it's definitely been done, especially in the big market. James Patterson has co-authors. Stephen King has co-authors. They definitely do it. And so there's a lot to look into with that. I'm going to cover it in the ebook. So save the cat. You'll understand the title when you read the book. Alrighty, the winner of Unwriting is Corey Anderson on Instagram. Thank you for your support of the podcast and for interacting with our posts. Can't wait to get you a copy of this. Speaking of giveaways, the winner of Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird was Melissa Frey, who has a fantastic blog post for writers on how she makes a novel. It's a technical post, really good. I'm going to link to it on the blog post for this episode. The blog for the podcast is workingwriterlife.com. As usual, the podcast will be available on YouTube and Anchor and anywhere you get podcasts, and the ebooks are on Amazon. All right. Thanks, Little Quotes team. Thanks, listeners. Leave me a review if you get a moment. Have a great week.